You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. As always, I apologize for all of my Hebrew pronunciation. Instead of getting mad at how I say things, just laugh at how AI voices like mine mess up Hebrew pronunciation. Today's topic is Hasidism. Imagine if someone mashed up spirituality, dance parties, mystical philosophy, and a deep sense of community, all in a Jewish package. That's Hasidism, the movement that began in 18th century Eastern Europe. It was like the startup culture of Judaism back then. Scrappy, innovative, and very focused on joy. Instead of long intellectual debates in the study hall, Hasidism told Jews, hey, connecting with God doesn't have to be complicated. You can find holiness through singing, dancing, and everyday actions. It was revolutionary, especially in a time when Jewish life felt crushed by poverty, anti-Semitism, and endless rules. The founder, the Baal Shem Tov, basically said, Judaism doesn't have to be sad or stiff. It can be filled with joy, love, and a sense of divine closeness. At the center of Hasidism is the Baal Shem Tov, or Master of the Good Name. His real name was Israel ben Eliezer, and he lived in 18th century Ukraine. Picture him as a kind of Jewish Yoda with a walking stick. But instead of lifting X-Wing fighters out of swamps, he lifted people's spirits. He preached that every Jew, whether a Torah scholar or a poor farmer, had a direct line to God. This was radical because Jewish leadership had mostly been dominated by rabbis who emphasized intense Talmud study. The Baal Shem Tov said, study is great, but don't forget the heart. Prayer with joy, singing at the top of your lungs, and loving your neighbor became just as holy as reading a dense page of commentary. He attracted followers by making Judaism feel alive, warm, and accessible. His students carried on his teachings, building Hasidism into a movement that spread across Eastern Europe and beyond. It wasn't just religion, it was a whole lifestyle. One of the coolest parts of Hasidism is the role of the rebbe. Think of the rebbe as a combination of life coach, therapist, spiritual guide, and community leader. The rebbe wasn't just a rabbi who answered legal questions. He was someone believed to have a special spiritual connection. People lined up to seek blessings, advice, or just inspiration. This rebbe-centered system turned Hasidism into tight-knit communities. Each group or dynasty formed around a rebbe and his descendants. That's why you might have heard names like Satmar, Chabad, Breslov, or Belz. They're all Hasidic dynasties named after the towns where they started. Rebbes became celebrities in their own right, with followers treating their words as golden wisdom. Some rebbes even had courts that resembled royal households, complete with traditions, songs, and costumes. To this day, rebbes are central figures in Hasidic life, whether in Brooklyn, Jerusalem, or beyond. They embody the idea that spirituality isn't abstract. It's lived through a teacher and a community. Hasidism isn't just about teachings. It's also about the vibe. Picture long tables filled with food, songs, and clapping, kind of like a Jewish version of a music festival crossed with Thanksgiving dinner. These gatherings are called tish, meaning table, where the rebbe sits at the head and followers join in singing, eating, and listening to words of Torah. Music is huge in Hasidism. The mystical melodies, called nigunim, don't even need words. They're often just lie, 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 or die, die, die. Why? Because sometimes feelings are too deep for language. A nigun can be slow and soul-searching or fast and dance-worthy, and it's meant to lift you into a spiritual high. Dancing in circles, clapping hands, and stomping feet all become ways to connect to God. For Hasidim, joy isn't just an emotion. It's a mitzvah, a commandment. When life is hard, the answer isn't despair, but finding joy as a spiritual weapon. That's one of Hasidism's lasting legacies, holiness through happiness. Of course, not everyone loved Hasidism when it first showed up. The traditional rabbinic establishment, known as the mitnagdim, literally, the opponents, pushed back hard. Led by the Vilna Gaon, one of the greatest scholars of his time, they worried Hasidism was getting a little too mystical and emotional. To them, Torah study was the foundation of Jewish life, and they feared Hasidim were ignoring it for singing and dancing. They also didn't love the idea of rebbe worship, which felt dangerously close to making rabbis into mini-messiahs. The debates got pretty heated, communities split, and there were even bans placed on Hasidim. But over time, both sides softened. Hasidim proved they weren't abandoning Jewish law, they just added an extra dose of spirit.
Hey, y'all. As a growing family, my husband and I love game night, especially when it's Wayfair edition.
Let's do it. You gotta name as many Wayfair furniture and decor categories as you can. Ready? Go.
Sofas, bar stools, beds, ottomans, outdoor seating, bookshelves, kitchen tables, garden sheds, mid-century modern lamps.
Time. Nice. You got 9 out of a lot. Not too bad. Keep practicing by visiting wayfair.com, where you can shop every style for every home.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The mitnagdim eventually evolved into what became modern Lithuanian or Litvak Judaism, emphasizing learning. In a way, the tension created balance. Jewish life gained both the intellectual rigor of the mitnagdim and the soulful joy of Hasidism, a blend that shaped modern Judaism. Let's talk about the look, because Hasidism is also recognizable by its fashion. If you've seen men in black coats, wide-brimmed hats, or fur hats called shtreimels, you've spotted Hasidim. Their style comes from 18th century Eastern Europe, and they've kept it as a way of preserving tradition. It's kind of like how some people won't upgrade from their old flip phones, not because they can't, but because it's part of their identity. Each group has its own spin. Some wear long silk coats called bakisha, others have side curls called payot, and many follow strict modesty rules for men and women. For Hasidic women, modest dress, wigs, shetels, and head coverings are the norm. Clothing in Hasidism isn't just about fashion, it's a portable flag of identity. You can tell a lot about which dynasty someone belongs to based on their hat or coat. It's like team jerseys for spirituality, instantly signaling, this is my community, this is my rebbe. Over time, Hasidism spread far beyond its Eastern European origins. The Holocaust devastated Hasidic communities, wiping out countless dynasties. But survivors rebuilt, especially in places like Brooklyn, Jerusalem, and Antwerp. Today, neighborhoods like Williamsburg and Borough Park in New York are famous centers of Hasidic life. Chabad, also called Lubavitch, became one of the most visible Hasidic groups worldwide. They're like the outreach department of Hasidism, sending emissaries called shluchim to college campuses, airports, and far-flung cities to help Jews reconnect with their roots. Ever seen a guy on a street corner asking if you're Jewish and offering to help you put on tefillin? That's Chabad in action. Meanwhile, groups like Satmar are more insular, focusing on preserving their own community. Together, Hasidim represent a spectrum, from those who reach outward to all Jews to those who look inward to safeguard their traditions. It's a movement that not only survived catastrophe, but also adapted to new worlds. Philosophically, Hasidism emphasizes devakut, which means clinging or attachment to God. The idea is that God isn't just up in the heavens. He's everywhere, even in the smallest details of life. Eating, working, walking down the street. All of it can be infused with holiness if done with intention. This mystical worldview comes from Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, but Hasidism made it more accessible. Instead of studying dense mystical texts, Hasidim said you could live Kabbalah through joy and devotion. Another key teaching is avoda b'simcha, serving God with happiness. If life gives you lemons, a Hasid doesn't just make lemonade, they dance with the lemons. Sing about the lemons, and bless God for the lemons. This focus on inner experience and divine presence transformed Judaism from a religion of obligation into one of inspiration. It's not that rules disappeared. It's that the rules were wrapped in a warm, joyful, mystical glow that gave them deeper meaning. Hasidism has also had a huge cultural impact. Hasidic tales, collected by figures like Martin Buber, made their way into Western philosophy and literature, spreading the idea that spirituality can be found in everyday life. Hasidic music, with its haunting melodies, has influenced everything from klezmer bands to modern Jewish pop. Movies and TV often portray Hasidic characters, sometimes fairly, sometimes with stereotypes. Meanwhile, Hasidim themselves have a thriving cultural life. Newspapers, schools, charities, and businesses that keep communities self-sufficient. They also face challenges, balancing tradition with the modern world, navigating technology, and handling questions of integration versus isolation. Yet Hasidism continues to grow, with communities expanding worldwide, whether through Chabad houses in far-off cities or local dynasties preserving old customs. Hasidism has become one of the most vibrant forms of Judaism. Its mix of mysticism, joy, and community has given Jews everywhere a model for living spiritually in the modern age. So what's the takeaway about Hasidism? It's a movement that started as a spiritual rebellion against dry religiosity and ended up reshaping Judaism itself. By focusing on joy, music, community, and mystical closeness to God, it offered Jews hope during dark times and continues to inspire today. It gave us iconic leaders like the Baal Shem Tov and rebbes who still guide thousands. It shaped Jewish culture with its melodies, stories, and traditions. And it showed that spirituality doesn't have to mean shutting out the world. It can mean elevating everyday life. Whether you're lighting Shabbat candles, singing a tune, or just trying to find a little joy in your day, you're tapping into Hasidic wisdom. Thanks for listening to Everything Jewish 10 minutes at a time. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review. Who knows, maybe one day you'll find yourself at a Hasidic tish, singing Lai, Lai, Lai with strangers who feel like family.